It's usually at this moment that I question my life's choices. As tempting as it is to stay wrapped up in the warmth, nothing wakes me up faster than an alarm clock signalling it's time to go fishing. While most people are still asleep, I'm setting off on another winter mission because for me, there is nothing quite like catching carp in the cold. Winter fishing is never easy, the fish slow down, the bites are few and far between, and the conditions can be brutal. But that's what makes it so special. Living up in the north, travelling long distances to catch a winter carp is nothing unusual. Picking the right venue in the winter is absolutely crucial. There is no point fishing a venue that does not have good winter form. So selection for your winter venue is absolutely key. And this time I'm heading to one of the best winter venues around, which is Todber Manor. Located in the heart of Dorset, Todber Manor is home to some incredible lakes which have really good winter form. Paddock Lake, however, is the more challenging lake on the complex that can produce a few winter bites if you get your tactics right. And in this session, I'm going to provide you with hopefully some useful tips to help yourself catch more carp throughout the winter months.
I'm Matt Candy. I am the owner's son. We've got Alex fishing the Paddock Lake, which is one of our oldest lakes. It's around 20 years old now, I'd say. And it's got cats and carp in. The cats range from about 10 to 80 pounds, with the majority being about 30 or 40 pounds. The carp is a good stamp of carp, probably ranging between about 15 pounds for your sort of new stockies, all the way up to just over 40 pounds. There's a real nice mix of like scalies, commons, plain mirrors, a bit of everything really. But yeah, it's our oldest standing lake and probably the trickiest, but if you get it right, you'll have good results up there. We closed Paddock over the winter just to give it a rest, and it's been reopened about 2 weeks now, and I think the fishing's been relatively tough, but the conditions have been pretty rubbish this winter. So hopefully Alex and co will get amongst some nice carp. So yeah, should be good.
With the lake being reopened for only a couple of weeks and no reported captures during that time, I opted to cast single bright hook baits into 3 different zones where I felt that the carp may be holding up. In this scenario, when a lake is fishing slow, a single bright hook bait is often more than enough to nick an early bite. And this lovely mid-20 mirror has just fell to one. Cast out to a show which they are perfect for doing at this time of year. Yeah, within half an hour, this one rattled off. So if you're fishing a lake in the winter without any prior information, there are general trends that you can follow, but it's vitally important to consider at what stage of winter are you fishing. Now, with regards to winter tactics, for me, I actually split winter generally into 2 different parts. At the start of the winter, so December, the temperatures can be actually quite variable from year to year. So for example, this winter we had a real mild spell throughout December. So during that time, I generally would be targeting those deeper waters. And the reason for that is because obviously that water is not going to cool down as quickly. If you are fishing a deep water, I do have a video over on Esney's Quarry, so feel free to check that out with regards to the various tactics that I used to catch, a good few fish during the winter. So yeah, December time, I'll be baiting actually quite heavily. Most of the time I will be using natural baits throughout December, so maggots, casters, a little bit of worm, that sort of thing, to mimic the dying naturals that are actually in the lake. So during that time, the weed is going to be dying off, and with that, all of those naturals are obviously going to be moving onto lake bed and actually more accessible for the carp. So during that time, I'll be mimicking those dying naturals. And then as I progress into this time of year now, so January through to February, I would actually be coming off the naturals just because I don't feel that they are as good, particularly in February. The carp in February can get quite at times a little bit of a false spring, and during that time, usually if you get a really warm spell, they're just going to be seeking warmth and they're going to be straight onto the shallow. So locating carp during that time, if you've got any shallow areas in your lake, particularly gravel, those shallow gravel areas heat up really quickly and you can quite often find the carp located there. Another good place to look for the carp is reed beds. They offer amazing sanctuary for the carp in the winter, and if there's areas of your lake that have reed beds that see the sun for the majority of the day, they are a really good place to start looking. With regards to location as well, the more you fish a particular lake, the carp generally hold up in the same places every single year. There's a few lakes that I fish regularly, and to be honest, I don't even need to walk around the lakes anymore. Every single year, those carp are in the same spot throughout December and January, and then in February, they'll move off into the shallows. So if you're unsure about your lake, just go and do a load of research. The amount of information that is available on Facebook, on catch reports, etc. Just have a walk around, work out what swims people are catching from, and obviously go from there if you are going in blind. With regards to me this session, I've never fished Paddock Lake in the winter, so it's a new one for me. I don't actually have any information really. I know that they do come out to us around the back of the island, so I've got one close to the island for now, and then I've just got one in a deeper channel, and then one just behind me in another channel as well. So yeah, we'll see how it goes tonight. It's about to go dark now. Yeah, and hopefully in the morning, if we don't have a carp, I'm not expecting much, to be fair, tonight, but hopefully I will be able to locate them. Well, would you believe it, we've just done that little piece about locating the carp in the winter and tactics. And yeah, the rod that I mentioned that's in this little channel by the island has just rattled off. She's in. What an amazing start. Oh, what an amazing start on Paddock Lake. Just goes to show that location is absolutely key. And once you've found them, yeah, the bites can come pretty thick and fast. The carp are absolutely stunning in this lake. This is why I love fishing this one. It's a real treat for me to fish this particular lake. The other side of this one is just as nice. And yeah, the first night, so the long journey down here, yeah, it's well worth it when you're catching carp like that. So yeah, let's slip this one back. We'll see what the night brings and see if we can catch some more. Happy, happy days. Stunning winter. Yeah. Now, it might be dark, but in the winter, especially early winter, the carp are really active at night. The amount of nighttime hours that you have is far greater than your daylight hours. So they're going to be really active during those nighttime hours. So it's extra important that you stay off your phone at night. Yes, it can be boring, but my advice to you, and it is a little bit of an effort, if you have the time, is set your alarm throughout the night and just have a listen for any carp that are showing. If it is difficult to locate the carp during the day, the only time that you're going to locate them is at night, and your ears become extra sensitive at night time. And it's quite often, if you hear a couple of shows, you can generally locate the area that they're going to be in, and then you can investigate that throughout the morning or even in the night. And with those carp being active during the night, more than likely you're going to catch them during that time, which means nighttime catch shots. If you're unsure how to get the best out of your nighttime catch shots, feel free to check out my How to Improve Your Self-Tape video on the Trakker YouTube channel, and I'll add that to the top of the screen now. Additionally, with regards to that, yeah, try and stay off your phone so that you can obviously listen for shows, but also with regards to that, just make sure that you've got a little bit of lighting, because it is very boring on your own at night. So I have obviously a light inside my bivvy, obviously a decent head torch as well. And lastly, with regards to staying warm at night time, just make sure you've got plenty of layers on. So for me, I've got a jumper on, I've got hoodie, and then a really thick jacket. And then underneath here, I've got my tracksuit bottoms, then I've got thermal trackies as well. And that keeps me nice and warm during the winter. Additionally, make sure you've got a really warm bed. So I've got the oval bed system, and I've also got a fleece on as well. And I've slept in temperatures up to -5 degrees in that, and I've been sweating and only had a sort of a t-shirt and pants on and been super warm. So yeah, my key tip really throughout the winter with regards to trying to locate the fish, they are going to be active during the evening. So staying up to listen for shows is imperative. Well, obviously not the size that we came for, but really happy with it nonetheless, particularly with the conditions that we're having this session. It is freezing, I've probably mentioned a couple of times. This one I'm guessing is probably one of the stockies from October. But yeah, when this one grows, it will be an absolutely lovely one. Yeah, this one coming, staying up late, listening to shows. There's now, obviously, well, I've heard 2 boshes, so stuck one in the general area, and this one has rattled off. So yeah, staying up late into the night or setting your alarm clock is really worthwhile. Sometimes, despite putting in the effort to listen for shows in the night, the carp will not always give their location away. If you're on limited time in the winter, maybe you can only get out once a month, it's also important to pick your time wisely. But there are also other trends that you can look out for in the winter months if you can't find the fish. You might not see carp in the winter. The carp's energy levels are super low, so they're not going to be sort of absolutely throwing themselves out of the water, so you are going to have to look for really subtle signs. If your lake has snags, obviously marginal snags, go and have a look in those. You might visibly see them in the snags holding up, but if they're holding out in open water, yeah, the signs of them are going to be really subtle. So look out obviously for little bits of fizzes. Generally bird life as well. If you've got loads of bird life that are holding up in a particular area, generally what that means is that's going to be the warmest part of the lake if they're holding up there, and usually the carp are underneath, so that's also a good spot. If you are on limited time to get out on the bank, maybe you've only got sort of 1 24-hour session a month. In terms of when would I go fishing in the winter, certainly those big weather changes are a fantastic time to get out on the bank. For better or for worse, I've found. So the first massive freeze of the winter, so the first time that the lake freezes over, if you can get out the day that the lake freezes over, so maybe you wake up in the morning and the lake's frozen, that's an amazing time to be out on the bank. I've found that the carp almost know that it's gone super cold and it's going to freeze over, and generally I've found that they have a little feed up, and I've had some amazing sessions waking up with the lake frozen and actually had fish underneath the ice. So that is an amazing time to get out there if you can predict that time. With regards to other weather changes, of course, weather changes for the positive. So at the moment, the weather here has been, the winter so far has been absolutely horrendous. So the highs for the past week here have been 3 degrees. But later on this week, it's due to go right up to 12 and 8 at night, which is like spring-like conditions. It does normally take a few days for those carp to wake up, but during that time period is an amazing time to get out on the bank. The reason why, again, the carp will know that of course that subtle change in the water temperature, they will start moving, start to venture obviously the warmer areas of the lake, and if they're moving, they're using energy, which means that they will feed. So that's my rods done for the evening. My left-hand rod is back in that channel where I had obviously the carp before. And my right-hand rod, I've just changed. I've moved it slightly more left, just onto a bar that runs across the lake. And it is quite shallow, but we'll see how that one goes. In the winter, it is important to obviously keep your rods roving about, trying to find those carp. So yeah, they're all sorted, all gone out sweet. Let's see what the night brings. Well, for some reason, my GoPro decided to pack in, but we have got another one. So let's have a look at it. So we'll take that at any time of year, never mind in the winter. Well happy with that. And the fish are actually grouped up in a really weird place. They're right in the teeth of probably a minus wind chill actually. So yeah, we can ponder and speculate where they'll be at this time of year, but at times they can be in the strangest of places in the winter. But yeah, we've found them now, and hopefully I can make the most of it for the rest of the little session. So while I'm redoing this rod, we may as well talk about the rigs that I use throughout the winter. Now, with regards to rigs, I would say if you are confident in your rigs, don't be changing them at all. So if you're catching throughout the spring, summer and autumn, don't be swapping and changing rigs just because it's suddenly the winter. Use what you are confident in. The last thing you want to be doing is chopping and changing your rigs all the time, especially if you're blanking, which you will do quite a lot throughout the winter. It's just part and parcel of carp fishing. But generally in the winter, there are 3 rigs that I will use. And again, splitting winter into 2 parts, we'll start off with what I would use in December time if I'm fishing over particle, maggots, those more natural type baits. And for me, it's the rig that I'm most confident in, and that is just the Ronnie rig. To tie my version of the Ronnie rig, you will need a size 4 wide gape hook, a spinner swivel, some shrink tube, our 35-pound coated soft braid, a micro rig ring and a hook bead, some putty and a small hook link clinger. To begin with, take 12 inches of our 35-pound coated braid and attach that to the spinner swivel using a figure of 8 loop knot. Using a small bit of shrink tube, pass that over the eye of the hook and slide onto the spinner swivel and push the shrink tube over the eye. Then to finish off the hook section is just a simple case of attaching your micro ring swivel and your hook bead. The placement of the hook bead is really important. When you're fishing a wafter, you want that in line with the point of the hook. To ensure that everything is pinned down to lake bed, I do like to attach a small hook link clinger. And the placement of this, I like this 3/4 of the way up the rig. And then to prevent tangles, I take a small anti-tangle sleeve, pass that onto the top of the actual hook length, and then finish off with a figure of 8 loop knot. And the length of the rig, I want that to be 7 inches. The Ronnie rig is one of the most effective carp fishing rigs out there. With the ability to use it as a pop-up or a wafter, it is a truly utilitarian rig. Now the next rig that I would use in the winter is of course a solid bag. Solid bags for me in the winter are absolutely deadly. The only reason really why I'm not using them this session is because there are quite a lot of catfish in paddock, so I don't want to be catching those. I've done a full masterclass on how to tie solid bags and using my favourite method of incorporating maggots inside a solid bag, which I will be using throughout December and January. So if you want to know more about how to tie a solid bag, the actual rig that I use to tie a solid bag, how to set up a drop-off system inside a solid bag, feel free to check that out. Now, the final rig that I would use in the winter, and this is one that I would start to use now. I was using this last week for a work overnighter and caught a couple as well. And in terms of what this rig is, so it's a soft boom hinge rig. Again, this will go onto a leg clip. And as I said, this is casting at show, so maybe I'm in a rush, I don't have time to mark up, or I've just seen something and I want to cast and just feel for a drop. I know that this rig is not tangled, and also it's going to be sitting perfect. In terms of how I actually tie this, so it's quite a long length of soft coated braid, anything between 12 up to 16 inches I would use. And again, in terms to stop this tangling, I actually use the long anti-tangle sleeve that we do. And that just means when you cast this, it's just going to keep that out the way and just stop it from wrapping around the rig or your lead or something like that. It's quite a high pop-up. You're looking around about 2 inches, I would say. And I've got a really bright yellow fluoro pop-up on there. Fluoro pop-ups are absolutely deadly early spring, late winter, as the carp are generally moving from the depths into the shallows during the day, and all you're really wanting them to do is just to pass it, see that sight of that boilie, and go down and investigate it. In terms of the actual hinge rig itself, again, I'm just using a size 4 wide gate hook. Again, these hooks are absolutely perfect for chod rig fishing and stiff hinge rig fishing. Have no issues with that at all. And then it's just our chod rig material in £30. And then all I've done, the soft coated braid, was tied a figure of 8 loop knot onto there, and it's just a simple chod rig. I haven't got a loop on the chod rig, I've just tied that straight to the swivel, and I've got the putty actually going over the knot section on there. Again, just incorporating a leg clip, fishing for drops. And those 3 rigs, if you only use those 3 rigs throughout the winter, depending on suiting the style of the tactics that you're using, you will not go too far wrong. Well, this might be the final bite of the session. Just saw those reeds knocking. It's really important to keep your eyes on the water at this time of year. There we go. Happy days. Just a small one. Go on, girl. Well, good morning. I have seen a few fizzers just in a little bit of a reed bed here. It does make sense that the sun is sort of pushing onto those reeds, the morning sun at least. So yeah, hopefully we can get amongst another fish. When the fish are having it in the winter, I won't just be using singles. I will also be using a really nice mixture of boilies. And in terms of how I actually prepare my boilies for the late winter, you want to make them as digestible as possible so that the carp can obviously eat them and not expend loads of energy. So while I'm getting this rod out, let's have a look at how I prepare my boilies for the late winter. Over the past few years, it's become really fashionable to use maggots and casters and all of your naturals, etc. But I'm just going to talk to you how to actually use boilies in the winter to get the most out of them. Now, of course, you can just use a standard boilie, but there is a few things that you can do with them to make them a lot more digestible for the carp. And in terms of What I would say with regards to naturals and corn, which are really popular winter baits, the key thing about those is that they are super soft because they've got a real high water content with them, which basically means that they are more digestible. So in terms of boilie fishing in the winter, you want to make your baits as digestible as possible. Bait selection is also really important. The two baits that I use is a mixture of the bug and the switch, and I use these in 12 mil so that they're not filling the carp up too much. In terms of winter baits, you want a low oil content and really a low protein and a high carbohydrate content. That's generally the best boilies for the winter. And there's loads of different companies out there that do a really good winter bait, but the two that I use are, as I said already, are the switch and the bug. In terms of how I prepare these, this is the key. And basically what I want these to turn into is a super soft bait. They're almost turning like a paste. If they're super hard, they have to chew them for longer, which means that they're expelling more energy, burning more calories, etc. And in the winter, they don't want that. They just simply do not have the energy to do that. So by making them super soft, the more digestible, they can actually pass through the carp quicker and they have to spend less time chewing them. Now, in terms of how I prepare these, I'll prepare these 48 hours in advance. And the first thing that I'll do is obviously put in a mixture of the bug and the switch in 50-50, and I'll fill those with water from my water butt at home. I wouldn't use tap water, of course, because it's got chlorine in it. And if you wanted to do this in advance, that's really the only way to do that. Of course, if you are fishing a lake regularly, you could bring a little bit of lake water home with you. But again, you run the risk, obviously, of that going off, etc. And also, you don't want to be using lake water from other lakes and then taking it to another lake because of the risk, of course, of transferring KHV over. So rainwater from home is absolutely perfect, or just use bottled water. So once they're completely covered in water, the next thing I'm going to do is add 2 different liquids. And basically what that'll do, it will, of course, make them super soft, but it will also mean that you're not losing all of that attraction from the bait. I don't want to be washing out the bait as such. I'm not doing it for that reason. I'm not trying to make them look like an old bait. I'm trying to make them really attractive at the same time, but also super soft. So the first thing that I will add is the bug smoke. And in terms of what this does, it's actually got the liquid food in there, and there's also various other ingredients, which means that it clouds that water up, which mimics fish feeding. And in terms of the amount that I would use into the actual water, you're looking at around about half a bottle of this for 3 kilo of bait. And then the final thing that we'll add is the bug hydro spod syrup. And again, in terms of the amount, I'm not going to need to add loads and loads of this. It's just to bulk it out a bit, just because this is cheaper than this one. And again, I'm looking around about 1/4 of a bottle for 3 kilo of bait. And I will let that then soak in for 48 hours before the session. And these will be freezer baits as well. All that will mean is when those are defrosting into the water, like a sponge, they will suck up all of the flavour from the bait, which basically means that I'm not losing the attraction properties of the actual bait, but at the same time, it will make them almost like a paste, which means that the carp will not have to spend ages chewing that bait. It'll make it more digestible for them so that it is perfect for the winter, because they're obviously expelling less energy to chew those. And in terms of the amount, you don't need a lot in the winter. You know, 10 boilies is plenty. And if you are doing those with the catapult, just make sure I would just put them out one at a time. Don't be putting them out, you know, with 10 inside your catapult, because if you miss your spot, that's a lot of bait in the winter to be messing up. The last thing you want is big parcels of bait all over the show. So just be really careful when you're baiting up, be super accurate. And that, using just boilies alone, no pellet, no maggots, no anything like that, is perfect for a winter bite. Now, it might be my age, but in the winter, I do like to fish venues that have a whole host of amenities. And Todber Manor have got absolutely loads of facilities to make your winter fishing more comfortable. They've got on-site toilet and showers, which are super clean, and they've got a tackle shop that can only be described as an Aladdin's cave, with every single thing that you will need if you run out during your session. In addition to that, they've also got a lakeside diner, which has an array of different things on the menu, from breakfast to a variety of teas. And during your stay here, you can either order it as a takeaway, eat in, or even have it delivered to your swim. Well, what an amazing way to finish the session. And one final thing, wintertime for me is always about having a really good social, spending some quality time with my best mate Paul, down here at Todber Manor, catching a few carp. So if you incorporate the tips that I've provided you throughout this video, I'm sure you will have a fantastic winter's fishing.